Welcome to the TestGuild News Show for the week of July 18th, 2021. This show is dedicated to helping you kick your week off right with all the latest in automation testing, performance and site reliability testing, security testing, DevOps-related news, and updates around the world that you need to know to start off your week right. So grab your favorite cup of coffee or tea and let's do this. All right, first up, kind of automation related, or actually it covers everything: automation, security, site reliability, and it is the post on Dropbox career framework that I saw recently. So this is an engineer career framework that was created by Dropbox. What I think is interesting about this framework is that it's going to allow you, regardless of what organization you're working at, I don't know if you have to go through self-assessments at the end of the year to see, if you're going to get a raise or something. And a lot of times I never knew what to write or how to grade myself or what objectives to have. And so this framework could actually help you in that way. It also can help you if you're just trying to see where you fit in your career, how you can get better. And so you want to get hired by other companies, say in Silicon Valley or something. A lot of these companies copy one another. So this framework probably would apply not just to Dropbox, but pretty much any other organization. So if you're trying to just kind of measure how you're doing in your career, what things you need to work on, how you can get better to get a raise or to get a promotion, this framework actually probably can help you. And it can help you in multiple different ways. So if you're looking at to excel in the quality engineering or software testing, they have different ways to look at different levels of what they think you should be responsible for at each level. So if you say, hey, I think I should be a staff quality assurance engineer, the highest level here, you can see what key behaviors they define as someone that exhibits these type of behaviors that actually deserve the title of staff quality assurance engineer. Things that could be measured against this and give you some things or key behaviors that you could show your company to demonstrate that you actually deserve a raise or a promotion. So I just found a new Selenium WebDriver that I'm really excited about. I don't know if you ever wanted to run Selenium from an executable or a batch file, or a shell script, and you try to figure out how to do it. Now you don't have to worry. There's actually a Selenium WebDriver binding for shell scripts, which is really cool. So I have a link to this in the show notes, but if you go to GitHub and type in Selenium.sh, you'll find the repository for the Selenium WebDriver binding for shell scripts, browser automation made possible with Bash. So I'm really excited about this. I love being able to write things from a Bash file or an executable, and this is an awesome way to actually do it, to get rid of repetitive tasks that you have to manually do. You can just do this by starting a Bash file and having it run for you. And that's pretty good documentation. So definitely check it out. Also, show some love to the creator on all the social media and give him a big thank you for this awesome contribution to the open source community. And for some reason, I actually failed to mention this a few weeks ago. Adam Carmi, one of the co-founders of Applitools, announced a few weeks ago that Applitools has just launched an early preview program for the ultra-fast TestGuild that actually works now with native and hybrid iOS and Android devices. So if you're doing any type of mobile testing, you know how hard it is to test it against all the things, all the devices really quickly. This ultra-fast grid is unbelievable. You actually have to see it to believe it, how fast you can test against all the different OSs and the different configurations really quickly. So you can find all kinds of visual validation bugs in minutes. All right, in DevOps news, I just saw a new report on the top 10 careers, and guess which made the list? Let's take a look. So this is from the Washington Newsday. Top 10 paying jobs, remote jobs that pay more than $100,000 or more. I don't know how anyone can go back to work in the office anyway. I've worked remotely for the past 14 years. I would never go back into the offices. But anyway, here are some jobs that you can actually make more than $100,000 working remotely. And what I thought was interesting is DevOps engineer made the list. So look at the annual salary, and you can take a look at the other jobs also. But this is one that really caught my eye because I think it's kind of cool being able to work remotely, make more than 6 figures, and do something with automation. So definitely check that out if you're interested in a career in DevOps. Definitely a skill you should have, because if you feel as strongly as I do about working remotely, it seems like it's one of the jobs that actually allows you to work remotely. So a lot of times I get asked the question, hey, Joe, what language should I learn to learn about automation? A lot of times I answer, use the language that you want to learn, that you have the most fun with, or that you're most comfortable with. But a lot of times the answer might be learn the same language that your developers are using so that you can speak the same language as your developers. So this is interesting insight by JetBrains. They recently did a survey on the top languages that developers are using, and here's what they found out. So no surprise here, JavaScript is the most widely used language. And what I also thought was interesting is Python is more popular than Java in terms of overall use, and Java is more popular as a main programming language. And some other languages that are also in the running as well. So once again, if you look into expand your skills, a lot of times you may look at what's the most popular language, because a lot of times that's going to be in the most job descriptions that you see. So if you don't know JavaScript, I highly recommend you probably just learn it. But then again, there's something to be say about learning a niche so that maybe you're one of the only people that know it. So maybe you could be like the king or queen of COBOL, because maybe there's only 1 or 2 job openings in COBOL, but you would own that particular space. So depending on where you want to go, if you want to learn what everyone else is doing, in case there's a job opening, most likely what's in demand is what's the most popular, or you can go the other way and go niche and do what everyone else is not doing and becoming an expert at that and cutting out just a little piece of the pie just for you to really excel in, because you're one of the only people that really are an expert in that. So go either way, but this report will give you some kind of roadmap to see which language you should focus in on. Next up, let's dive into some performance and site reliability news items I found around the web as well. Rebecca actually posted this a few days ago on Splunk, real user monitoring, and a really cool article by Shajwat on the past, present, and future of real-time monitoring, why, how it's evolved over the years, why it's important, what it can do to help you with especially observability, which is one of the top buzzwords I've been hearing more and more about in the past year or so. And so if you're using Splunk or using a similar tool, definitely check out real user monitoring to help you with observability. So speaking about observability, I also found another article on how AI and observability platforms are going to alter DevOps economics. Interesting insight into how AI, if you're using test automation, you've probably been hearing about AI, but I think it actually more applicable to things like performance or site reliability, because it's able to dig into all these logs and monitoring type things and give you some insights that you probably wouldn't be able to do manually, because it's thousands and thousands of different things. And using machine learning can kind of bucket things together and actually bubble up some really good insights based on machine learning using AI. And so as the article mentioned, I definitely agree that 2 things are really going to help accelerate better DevOps practices. The first is observability platforms that more and more teams, again, are starting to use, and also machine learning algorithms that are starting to be implemented that infuse AI, otherwise known as AiOps. So I'll have a link to this article as well, so you get a little more insight to that also. So I'm always kind of intrigued when I see machine learning, how it's being applied to technology. Obviously, it's going to be something we're going to see more and more of, and kind of excited to see how it's going to evolve in the DevOps space. So I probably should name this episode DevOps and More, because I keep finding a lot of articles this week on DevOps, and here's another one. So it's, we saw how DevOps is going to be one of the top 10 careers for remote workers. If you want to make more than $100,000, it's definitely a demand for it. So that's one thing we looked at. We also looked at how AI and DevOps are going to come together to help you with observability and really accelerate DevOps practices, leveraging machine learning. So if it's a skill you think, oh, I want to learn more about, how can I learn more about DevOps? Because it seems like it's a growing area. It's something I'm interested in. The DevOps Institute actually just announced a site reliability engineering certificate. And a lot of times, if you're looking at certificates, you don't necessarily need to take a certificate, but you could also use it as a syllabus to see, okay, what's this certificate saying someone that is a site reliability engineer should know? And you can do some self-study, or you can actually just take the certification also and learn it that way. So I'll have a link to this in the show notes as well. But it also goes over some of the benefits of obtaining an SRE practitioner certification. So like I said, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just go look at the description of the certification and see what they're teaching. And if you're just into self-study, you may want to take these objectives and just learn on your own. If for some reason you're down on certifications, you don't feel like taking or investing money, you still can find out what the syllabus is and what areas are that you can focus in on to learn more about site reliability engineering or any type of certification for sure. So that's a little hack for you. If for some reason you don't feel like buying a certification and putting the time in, you can also do some self-study by looking at the core objectives of the course itself or the certification itself. So in performance testing related news or performance engineering news, I found a good article. It's been updated a few weeks ago on the 13 critical website performance metrics you should be monitoring. I thought it was really helpful. It breaks down each one, explains what it is. So there's a nice breakdown of some of the 13 metrics themselves, what they mean, and with some examples around each one also. And I think it's something if you're doing any type of performance testing, or you're concerned about performance from a user perspective, here's some metrics you definitely should know about. So check out that article as well. All right, next up, security news. So I am still amazed at how many applications are affected by SQL injection. It's been on the OWASP top 10 forever, and yet we still have applications that are affected by it. If you're a tester, I think this should be one of the things you definitely should be doing, and that is testing for SQL injection. And this actually impacted me because impacted probably a lot of folks who have blogs. I use WordPress, and as you can see, WordPress recently announced that so it had a critical injection vulnerability for WooCommerce, and it explains what the exploit was and why it was a critical issue. And as I mentioned, if you go to the OWASP top 10, the first one you actually see is injection. So if you click on injection, it talks more about these types of threats, agents, attack vectors, security weaknesses, and the impacts it has. It also shows how to check if your application is vulnerable to these types of attacks and how to prevent injection issues in your application. So if you're a tester, there is no excuse why you shouldn't be doing these types of common security tests, even if you don't have the security in your title. I think OWASP is a great resource you should know about and a cool technique that you should be doing as part of any test plan for any application you may be testing. And talking about security testing, how to learn more about security, this other tip came my way through Dr. Jared DeMott's post on, and so if you click on the link, it takes you directly to the Open Security Training 2 site and the different learning paths and the classes that are available right now for free. Cool stuff. Definitely check that out. It's a good free resource for learning security testing to help avoid not only SQL injection, but all the other type of security-related issues you need to know about as you're developing software quicker, faster, to make sure you find it before you get it in the hands of your users. If you have any news you'd like me to share with anyone on upcoming news shows, all you need to do is drop me an email at news@TestGuild.com. So I'm Joe, and as always, my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end full-stack testing awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.